I can't sleep. And that shouldn't be surprising since this is a video series that I do. Um, like, I'm probably dead while you're watching this. I realized that. I was thinking about that. Like, things are mighty hard right now. I'm filming this in April. It's going up in May. There's a darn good chance I'll be dead by then. But, I mean, even if not, if I'm still alive, chances are, wherever you are in time watching this video, I'm probably dead. Because more time will pass after I die than I was ever alive for. Like, I could die at 47. I could die at 100 or 400 or 4 billion. I could live to be 4 billion years old. And you're still probably watching this after I died. If this media has survived, if it survives beyond me, then yeah, you're most likely living in a time after my 4 billion year lifespan, because there will be far more years beyond that 4 billion year span of time. There will be so much time to follow that 4 billion years will seem like a snap, like just an instant in the lifespan of the cosmos. So you're probably watching this video, and I am dead. I hope you can understand the language. I mean, it all depends. It all depends on, like, whether or not our particular history continues. Because, I think there's compelling evidence that the human societies have risen to great heights and fallen in prehistory. Not necessarily to the technological level that we are at now. But in my opinion, there was history before history. I think, there are ancient maps based on much more ancient maps. There are cities at the bottom of the ocean. There's just a lot to suggest that we've risen up through the ages, like the Stone Age, the Iron Age. Like, we've gone through it more than once. And so, my hope is that this time, we will break orbit. We will begin to travel the stars. We'll become a truly I don't know the word. I was going to say immortal, but that's not accurate. Nothing is immortal. Everything will end. Our society could span billions of years, and it will end. Everything will be lost. I've done a whole video about this. It's something that fascinates me. I like to think about it. Because, just the evanescence of everything makes everything more precious. But, yes, hopefully, our history will endure for a very long time to come. It will span planets and stars and galaxies, especially when we all basically become digital life forms. That's what I think is the inevitable path of human evolution. And I think we're right on the verge of doing it. That's why I'm like, perhaps I am still around in 4 billion years. And I'm some digital life form that can, my mind has been backed up into a digital realm. And I can be printed out into a physical form, basically on whatever planet humans are on, whenever I want to. And if that physical form is destroyed, I will still be in the digital realm. And I can just print out another body. That's what I think is the inevitable future if we continue. But I also, we're living in 2022. Look it up, kids, in history class. That was a precarious year. The early 2020s were look at where the doomsday clock was in 2022, in April of 2022, which is where I'm speaking to you from. It didn't look good. So, we've got oligarchies taking over the world. Fascism is on the rise again in democratic nations. And that's Athens in ancient Greece was the great democracy, right? And the oligarchs taking over is really what killed it. So that needs to stop, and we can't tell from this vantage point in time whether or not it will stop. If we leave this planet and go to other worlds, other star systems, benevolently, as explorers, as just people who want to spread out, I think it'll be a lot better than if it's the super rich billionaires, the oligarchs, who take us to the stars. Because if they're the ones who take us to the stars, these people who don't want labor unions, who don't want to pay people a living wage, life on other planets when we get there is going to be terrible. Because no one's going to be able to control them. Like, sure, Jeff Bezos colonizes Mars, say, hypothetically. But then he has access to all of those resources. It's like how the English colonies that became the United States of America had all the resources that the British Empire was relying on. And we were across the Atlantic Ocean from them. That's why we won the Revolutionary War. I mean, the French helped, but I mean, really, we were able to hold them off because we knew the territory, and we were holding all the cards, really. Like, they had the bigger navy, but we built the boats. Like, so if Jeff Bezos is building the boats, because he's my hypothetical billionaire who colonizes Mars, he's going to have all the new resources of an entire planet. He's going to, unlike the American colonies, I think extraterrestrial colonies founded by soulless oligarchs will be the oppressive place to be. And American history, the oppressors were, the king, the British Empire, was taxing us without representation. It was, they had all the power, but we had all the resources, and we wanted freedom. In my opinion, a space colony run by a greedy billionaire, it's the motherland is going to be a source of freedom, that they're going to fight against freedom. Because once they have control of the resources, they can give the governments they pretended to be doing this in service of the finger and form their own government. And what are we going to do? Like, they build the spaceships. That's why I don't think we should let the billionaire class run the space program. I don't think we should let them colonize worlds. I think we're better off colonizing other planets from a purely government motivation. It's still going to be about resources. It is still going to be about money. And you are still not going to be able, the government is not going to be able to hold that together. I don't think. There is a reason no one has ever conquered the world. I think Alexander the Great came close in his day. Others have tried. But the thing is, all of their efforts eventually fell apart. Everything Alexander built in his very short lifetime fell apart within a generation after his death, I think. Because when a single governing body is trying to maintain control, the wider the region of territory they're controlling is, the more difficult that becomes. Because even the United States of America is huge. It is a huge nation. But we have so many diverse cultures. Even the United Kingdom, which is much smaller geographically, has such a diversity of culture from one region to the next. So the more of that you have, let's say the United States, hypothetically, we got, fascism. The fascists take control again, they actually did for 4 years. We barely kept fascism from becoming the law of the land with the previous presidential administration. But, if we can't hold that tide back and the fascists take control, then it's only a matter of time before some idiot fascist president gets the manifest destiny back in his head. What happened to the Native Americans here. North America was populated when Europe started to colonize it. There were already people here. There were nations here. There were cultures here. But the wrong people in power will conquer other people for territories, for resources, for land. it's something that could happen. Like, it's happening in Russia right now with Vladimir Putin trying to conquer Ukraine. And things have leaked that suggest his end game was, I mean, he thought he was going to conquer Ukraine really fast. They're still fighting. It's been weeks and weeks. And they're losing. It's kind of like Putin's Vietnam in a way. It's terrible. It's terrible. But it's happening there. It's happened elsewhere. In modern history, as we perceive it. You may perceive it as ancient history. But, and again, like I said at the beginning of this video, you most likely do perceive what I'm talking about as ancient history. So what I'm saying is that if it can happen in other countries, if the fascists take control in the United States of America, which is the most powerful nation on the planet, fascism will take control all over the planet. We'll be living in a dark time, and greedy people, greedy Americans will want more territories. So, like, if you want to incorporate, let's say the United States conquers all of Africa. All of Africa. There are so many. Like, if you just make every country in Africa into a new state in the United States, say, well, you're still maintaining the United States, which has a huge cultural divide between the North and the South. And within those divides, there are further divides. It's like even in Texas, which is a ridiculously big state that is mostly empty in 2022, there is a lot of land, there are a lot of cows. If you drive across state, you see a lot of nothing. But there are big cities, there are little towns scattered throughout. But Dallas is a more liberal city within a more conservative state. At least, according to the leadership. There are different viewpoints, different values, different religions, different histories and cultures. And so the more you spread out, the more dramatic those differences are. And it's next to impossible for one single government to appease all of the states. Like all of the African countries that become states. That would be ridiculous. That would just be nuts. Because, oh my gosh, I can't fathom what that would be like. But if you took the whole world, if you conquered the entire world, there would just be no way that empire would not implode hard, just crumble and collapse like all empires do. Every empire in history as we know it, as modern history records it, has collapsed. The United States, not technically an empire, but it is effectively an empire. That power, the more we spread it out, the more likely it's going to be to implode. So that's why I'm thinking, even if it's our exploration of space, our colonization of other planets is altruistic, even if it's not about billionaires oppressing colonists and basically enslaving them to become richer, it's going to fall apart. Because colonialism, man, it never ends well for the empire behind it. It never ends well. It never ends well. Like if we find people on these planets, it won't end well for them either if they're less advanced than we are. Humans are gonna human, I'm afraid. Unless, I'll come back around to this because I think there is a way things could work out, but it wouldn't be imperialistic, it wouldn't be capitalistic, it wouldn't be the same kind of exploitative colonialism. It would, but so like, let's say, yeah, so we have just your usual human colonialism going on in the solar system, all over the planets. And again, it's going to mirror what happened with the American colonies in the 18th century, where the colonists are going to probably get fed up with Big Brother's thumb being over them all the time and making decisions about how they're going to live on this planet that the seat of government has no experience with. They're just reaping the rewards of the people's work on these other planets. They're eventually going to say, you know what? We're not a part of your government anymore. This is our planet. This is our culture. This is our society, and these are our resources, which, we will gladly maintain trade with you. But keep your thumb off of us. It's going to happen. We won't be able to maintain an interplanetary empire the way that we do things now. So back to my possible exception. And this is where I tend to disagree with Stephen Hawking. And I'll come back to that as well. Well, no, let's go there now. So Stephen Hawking said that pretty much if an advanced culture discovers planet Earth as we are now and comes here, then they will be Spain in the 16th century. They will be the British colonies in the 19th century, and the way they treated the Native Americans who were already here. They will be the ones, and they'll be those people, the invaders, the colonizers, and will be the native earthlings, which would parallel what happened to the Native Americans. He was basically saying, inevitably, it will be a disaster for the human race if we are discovered by an advanced race of extraterrestrials, because they will push us out and take over the land and resources. And we will be quickly marginalized. But And I concede that that is a possibility if that extraterrestrial culture evolved along the path that the human race is currently on without ever changing direction. But here's my argument against it being the most likely or inevitable scenario. It is a possibility. It is an absolute possibility. But my thinking goes along with what I'm saying about how humans wouldn't be able, the way they run things now, to manage an interplanetary empire. But it all comes down to control and peace and human rights. I think in order for, say, like, let's go back to those hypothetical aliens Stephen Hawking was talking about. So, in order for that advanced race on another world to get this far, to not only be interplanetary in their own star system, but interstellar, where they're traveling from one star to another, they have to have overcome those problems that lead to imperial implosion. Which means probably they're not authoritarians, they're not capitalists who exploit people. They are probably a healthy, like, they've overcome war. Like, first they had to unify the one planet they started on and live in peace and harmony, and then take to the stars, if that's, or take to the planets around them, if they were able to maintain an interplanetary society. It has to have been built on these principles of peace and mutual respect for everyone. And if they manage to maintain that culture in an interplanetary society, only then will they be able to pool their resources to travel to another star system. So when they get here from there, they are not the Spaniards. They are not the Spaniards coming here looking for gold and wanting to exploit and annihilate the cultures they find here. They come from a culture of respect and peace and probably diversity, like, where instead of diverse people being marginalized, they're celebrated for the value that they bring. You know, like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Instead of being pushed away, they're valued for what they bring to the table with their diversity. That's what I think. And so I think in order for us, that's the other path we can take. I think if we go in the path we're going now, an interplanetary culture will collapse. And we'll have different governments on different planets. You know, if we spread out as a war-torn planet into other planets, we're going to become a war-torn star system with the planets waging wars against each other and having trade disputes and religious and cultural differences that can't be reconciled. Which means no one planet. Then it's like every planet will have every would-be conqueror on any planet would have visions of conquering the solar system. But first they need to conquer their entire world, their entire planet. Like if Earth can't get it together to have one world government that is a mutually respectful melting pot of cultures, we sure aren't going to manage to do that across the entire solar system. We aren't going to be able to unify the government. So if no one planet can even manage itself in a unified manner, no one planet is going to be able to master all the resources of an entire star system. So we are not, as a unified society, going to take to the stars. Just maybe the planets, and it's going to be rough. It's going to be a rough ride. Colonizing the planets. But so, again, it's just a more optimistic possibility. Because yes, what Hawking said could happen. Because let's say, like, if we do it the way we're doing it, and some sort of Jeff Bezos type conquers Mars and, develops technology like a warp engine or something, or some way to travel to another star within a reasonable amount of time. Honestly though, like, just without pooled resources for something like a venture like that, I don't see how they could go to another planet with visions of conquest and adding our star system to their empire. Because if you just have one planet and you manage to travel to another star system, there isn't much you can do but explore. And so that's why I think probably if we have been visited by extraterrestrials, they are mostly explorers. They're not here to conquer and colonize. They're probably here to take pictures. To go home and say, hey, here's what's over there. If they don't come from a unified star system. But even if they do, they're probably peaceful, because that's how they became a unified star system. Just a hypothesis. Just a possible way to look at things that isn't quite so doom and gloom. And also, and I think we will get there. I think, the growing, if we survive, if no one starts a nuclear war here in the next few minutes, with us seconds away from midnight on the doomsday clock, if that hand starts going counterclockwise, if we start, if more countries become democracies, because democracies don't have wars with each other as a rule. And of course, there are exceptions to every rule. You can look at the American Civil War, and I could probably dig deep into that as to why that was an exception. A democracy going to war with itself, does that really count? Because the Confederacy was never really acknowledged as a legitimate nation by anyone. It wasn't. So technically, that wasn't us going to war with another democracy. I mean, technically, and it's way oversimplifying the matter, technically it was a matter of internal politics that got way out of hand. But right, like, if every country on earth eventually becomes a true functioning democracy, if we don't lose the true functioning, maybe not full democracies, but republics that we have on the planet already, only then, I think, will we be poised to harness the power of our entire star system and head benevolently out into the neighboring stars. And so I think most likely that would be the case for said neighboring star systems too. That in order to get here, they would need to have evolved into a peaceful, all-encompassing society that spanned every planet in their star system. So yeah, just the kind of thing that keeps me up at night, just pondering these possibilities. So, I mean, that's good enough for now. I didn't even look at the time. I don't know how long this video is, but yeah. So if you like my late night ramblings in these I Can't Sleep videos, please subscribe below. If you enjoyed this particular rant, hit the like button. Helps me out a bit. And whether I am dead or alive as you watch this video, thanks for sitting up with me.